baseball, and we'll be with you 2 times each week here on 97.5 Glory FM. Joe Gailey and I'll be with you on Tuesday as Flowery Branch plays host to Madison County. And then next Friday, it's a big battle between White County and North Hall, and that should be an emotional day. It's still 28 years ago this Friday is when the tornado went through North Hall High School and up to White County, and still remember that to this day and how it affected lives here locally. Talking about how lives have been changed. We're going to talk with Chuck Graham this morning. We first brought you the story last week about Jason Hughes, his death last week. We had the story yesterday that DA Lee Dara has decided not to pursue criminal charges against the 5 students that were involved in that horrible accident took place last Friday night. Funeral taking place this morning at 11 a.m. for Coach Jason Hughes. It will be taking place at Family Church, formerly Corinth Baptist Church, there on Mount Vernon Road, just off Thompson Bridge Road. And they're asking people to go to North Hall High School, where they'll be shuttled to the service this morning at 11 a.m. So we'll have more about that also here on 97.5 Glory FM. We got a lot to talk about this morning. Let's start things off with high school baseball action. The results I've got from yesterday: North Hall falling to Pickens in 9 innings, 5-4. It was Chestatee defeating Johnson. Also, it was GAC, a winner over Lumpkin County, sweeping that 3-game series with the Indians. And it was Dawson County blanking White County. The Tigers win 2 of the 3 games against White County this week. Also, it was Gainesville, a winner yesterday over Milton in their region there in Class 5A play. And also around the area in Region AAA play, it was Oconee County's sweeping by East Hall in their doubleheader, and also it was Jefferson sweeping by West Hall in their doubleheader from yesterday. Well, again, we'll have high school baseball for you on Tuesday and Friday of this upcoming week. And coming up next here on 97.5 Glory FM, we'll start talking about March Madness with college basketball coming up next on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM and that YouTube channel, Team Glory Sports.
If you need on-time expert plumbing service, Conditioned Air Systems is here for you. Our plumbers deliver the highest quality service in North Georgia 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. We've been North Georgia's source for elite residential and commercial services since 1983. Our licensed plumbers offer services for installation and repairs of pipes, water heaters, septic lines, and sump pumps. Choose Conditioned Air Systems for quality service and unmatched knowledge for your plumbing needs.
Injuries are never planned and often happen after hours or over the weekend. That's why NGPG Orthopedic and Sports Medicine offers the Black and Blue Walk-In Clinic for injured athletes every Monday morning in their offices in Gainesville, Brazelton, Beaufort, Houston, and Jefferson. No need to call. Just walk right in between 8:30 and 11:30 on Monday mornings. And one of their sports medicine and orthopedic doctors will be there to help identify, treat, and care for your injury. To learn more, you may visit ngpg.org/black and blue.
Temperatures are warming up, and it's time to give your lawn some much-needed attention. Hi, I'm Jennifer with King Green. And with our comprehensive approach to ensuring that your lawn is healthy and thriving, be sure to include our aeration services. Not only does aeration improve overall quality and color in your lawn, it reduces soil compaction, increases root density, and creates a lawn and landscape that you can be proud of. Visit us online at kinggreen.com.
97.5 Glory FM.
Your radio station for North Georgia sports. This is the Saturday Morning Sports Show. I'm Mike Wofford with you until 10 o'clock as we talk high school, college, and pro sports. Leading things off this morning is Dave Cohen joining us here. Hey, good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Mike. Normally I'm at the tail end of the Saturday Morning Sports Show. I've moved up in the world.
Oh, we usually save you for the best for last, but today you're the leadoff man, and you know how that is. So big news taking place yesterday down in Atlanta with Georgia State.
It sure has. It's been a busy week, actually, for Georgia State's athletic administration. A couple of changes in leadership with regards to men's and women's basketball. You know, earlier this week, Gene Hill announced his resignation after 8 seasons leading our women's program. And then news broke on Friday nationally that Jonas Hayes would not see a 5th season as our head basketball coach. So, yeah, kind of a tough week. I like both Jonas and Gene, both, you know, fantastic individuals and great to work with. But, you know, it's a results business. It's a wins-loss business. And So change is upon us at Georgia State in not only our men's program, but the women's program as well.
Let's talk about the men's program with Jonas Hayes, Dave, because as much as you like Jonas Hayes, for some reason it just didn't work. And you finished 13th in a 14-team league, and you get knocked out in that first round the way you do, and the way the season ended, just winning that one game over the last month, it seemed like that win against Georgia Southern, just things were not looking good for Jonas Hayes. And you look at he's got a buyout now, and now the big thing is who's going to be the next head coach there at Georgia State.
Well, yeah, that's the situation. I've said it on more than one occasion, Mike, that, you go back to the 2021-2022 season, the final season when Rob Lanier was the head coach here at Georgia State.
Mm-hmm.
And the Panthers advanced. They won the Sun Belt Conference tournament, advanced to the NCAA tournament. Remember, we were out in Portland, Oregon to take on the Gonzaga. And upon returning to Atlanta, Rob Lanier, takes the job at SMU, and so he's gone, and the nucleus of that NCAA team scattered, and they were gone. And, you look at what's gone on at Miami of Ohio,
yes.
6 degrees of separation. Travis Steele leaves his coaching position at Xavier, leaving it for Jonas Hayes to guide Xavier to the NIT championship. And, with Rob Lanier going to Dallas, Georgia State ends up hiring Jonas Hayes to come back to Atlanta and lead the Georgia State program. But Jonas gets to Georgia State right on the cusp of the transfer portal really blossoming and name, image, likeness really starting to take hold. And so, again, just looking at it from where I sit, Jonas really was behind the 8 ball the minute he landed in Atlanta and got the Georgia State job. And, you look at the record, when that NCAA team scattered and left just a shell of a roster, he had to really kind of scramble quickly and bring in some players. And he brought in, you may remember the names DeJuan Odom and Brendan Tucker and Jermaine Mann and a few others. But, they ended up going 10-22 and 7-11. And then in the second year, they went 14-19, and they went 8-10 in Sun Belt play. And then it was 14-17 and 8-10, which was their best year. And then this year it dropped back to 10-21. And in 22-23, it was 10-21 and 3-15. So their best run was the 24-25 season when they went 14-19. But it's, he was behind the 8 ball, as I mentioned, right from the get-go, based on the fact that he was now dealing. He was really in the first wave of coaches that had to deal with the transfer portal and name, image, likeness money. You hear it now. Everybody has or had a collective, and now we've got to raise money to retain players.
Mm-hmm.
Jonas told me on more than one occasion this season during interviews or pregame shows that the key word in college sports now, and not just basketball, but football as well and baseball as well, the word, quote-unquote, retain players. Retain is the number one word right now because, you're constantly recruiting. Not only are you recruiting new players, but you've got to recruit your own players, your current players, so that, you can convince them to stay in the program and help build the program and not jump into the transfer portal and, chase another payday.
I thought you were going to say the word money because that's really what it's come down to is money. And you're really behind the 8 ball, as you say, because Georgia State does not have the money that other programs have to be able to retain players.
Well, there's a lot of mid-major programs, what we call Group of 5 or Group of 6 programs. There's a lot of them that don't have the funding that it's going to take to stay at the level that they were at.
Sure.
Again, you can go back, Mike, prior to that first season, when you go back to 21-22, Rob Lanier did not have to deal with the transfer portal.
Sure.
And Rob Lanier and Ron Hunter and all the prior coaches at Georgia State, just using Georgia State as an example, did not have the challenge of not only recruiting new players, but having to re-recruit the players they recruited the previous year.
Sure.
Because, the other term that I had mentioned, Ed, is which has become very common, is now called chasing the bag. They're chasing the bag of money.
Yes.
And that seems to be the prevailing theme now in college athletics, most notably college, football and college basketball, a little bit in college baseball. But right now, he who has the gold seems to be able to have more success because who doesn't want to go and play where all the gold is?
Sure.
And so who has the gold?
Episode.
Well, most of your Power 4 programs have the gold. It's getting harder and harder for the group of 5 or the group of 6 or the mid-major programs, as we call them, year in and year out to compete. I mean, you can look at Georgia State, and Jonas, on more than one occasion, lost his best player at the end of a certain season. Let's take Lucas Taylor, for example. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he was our leading scorer, has a great season, gets re-recruited. Georgia State unable to retain because they can't afford him. He goes and plays at Syracuse.
Yep. Well, no, I know David.
Juan Odom left and went to Tulsa.
Right. David,
why did he leave? Who leaves Atlanta, Georgia for Tulsa, Oklahoma? Well, if there's money at the end of the rainbow, players do.
Sure.
And so that is the world that we now live in college athletics.
All right, so Dave, with that, is also, I guess, recruiting on the standpoint of the athletic director at Georgia State or anybody else of getting the coach that you need. And though you go back in your days, you need somebody who's been successful in college basketball, from a Ron Hunter to a Rob Lanier to Letcher Giselle, who you always look and admire what he did at Georgia State. But you got to have somebody who could come in who's been successful, don't you, to lead this program to the next level? Yeah,
there's a few ways that you can look at it, or that I look at it. And you're right, you mentioned a couple of names. Do you bring in a guy who maybe is a little older towards what we'll call the end of his coaching career, like a Lefty Drizel was, but Lefty was a proven winner and a proven program builder?
Yep.
Do you bring in someone like that who's a little bit older and more experienced? Do you bring in a guy like Ron Hunter, who is now at Tulane, but had a great 8-year run at Georgia State, but it spent the prior 17 years in Indianapolis at IUPUI?
Yep.
Not exactly a household name in college basketball, but Ron Hunter, in 17 years ushered IUPUI from a Division II program to a Division I program, and actually took them to one NCAA tournament. In other words, he proved that he could build a program and sustain a program, and he did it over 17 years. It's rare now, as you know, Mike, that you find any coach that stays anywhere 17 years.
Oh, sure.
Most are on the run after 3 or 4 or 5 years, depending on what their situation is. If they're losing, they're going to get bounced. If they're winning, coaches is going to chase the bag and try to move up the ladder to a Power 4 program.
Sure.
So, do you bring in an older coach? Do you bring in a guy of average age who has proven, like Ron Hunter did, that you can build a program? Do you go get a guy from a really successful coach from Division II?
Yep.
We've seen that in some instances.
Sure.
Bring in a D2 guy and, let them try to, duplicate what they did at the Division II level at the Division I level. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to recruiting. Or do you go just get an assistant off a Power 4 program and see what they do? Kind of a little bit of my prevailing thought is, and of course it all comes down to the individual, but the challenges that Jonas Hayes and his staff have faced the last 4 years are still here.
Exactly.
So whoever you bring in, some of those challenges are still here at Georgia State from a financial standpoint, meaning an NIL. It's not really NIL. We call it NIL, Mike. It's not really NIL.
No, it's not.
It's basically pay to play.
Sure.
Name, image, likeness means that I'm paying Mike Wofford for his name and image and likeness, and he's representing my company or my organization. That's not really happening across the college, athletics landscape, except for a few instances here and there. Basically what it is it's pay to play.
You're signing contracts.
Well, they haven't got to that point yet, but I think definitely it's got to move in that direction because, you listened to some of our broadcasts this year that aired on Glory 97.5 FM. How many times during starting lineups did I mention a kid who'd been to 2 or 3 or 4 schools prior?
Yes, absolutely. Sure.
And that's just the nature of it. These kids play 1 year and they're done, and then they move on. And it's not really good for the sport. And to be honest with you, even though not everybody would agree with me, it's not a good situation for the student athlete either. It's a lack of commitment. Everybody at the end of the year is just chasing the bag.
But they go back to the situation with football with Clemson and Ole Miss. That one player signed a contract, and then he reneged on it and went, to another place. So you're going to see that happening, I believe, when it comes to what you're going to do in college sports, whether it be you get your full ride to be a student, then all of a sudden, okay, you get this much more money to play for our program and represent our program, and then, so, I think the big field of 68, which will be decided tomorrow, is going to determine a lot of things for future of college basketball.
Yep, and there's been talk of expanding the tournament and all that kind of. There's really no reason to expand the tournament. That's another story. If you want to enter into that topic, but
later day.
What's that?
Later day for that one. Okay, that'd be a whole show from that standpoint. Yeah, but
that could be a whole show.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Again, as I said, our athletic director Charlie Cobb and our president Brian Blake will deal with hiring a new head coach. But again, some of those same challenges that Jonas Hayes faced, that Rob Lanier and Ron Hunter did not necessarily face, are going to face whatever new staff they bring in to lead the Georgia State program. So
I think timing's one thing, though, David. Here you are, but the Friday before Selection Sunday, and with the tournament starting next week. So now I think your AD and your president, they got a lot of work to do with the search committee, if you have it, or if it's just going to be Charlie Cobb making the decision. You got to make one quickly, don't you?
Well, it depends upon who you're targeting.
Right.
If whoever is interested in the job is currently employed, then you're in a little bit of a wait and see scenario.
Sure.
But I'm as far as I know, Georgia State uses a search firm, as a lot of institutions do these days. And so that helps with the vetting process. But
they think about it.
The ultimate decision will be made, again, by our athletics director and by our, the president of Georgia State.
There'll
be a lot of people that are interested in the Georgia State job. The Sun Belt is a very it's a good league. It's been a little down for basketball. The Troy Trojans won the Sun Belt this year.
Yep.
So they'll be, but it's a one-bid league.
Yep.
You got 14 schools, and it's a one-bid league. And so, every year you've got a 1 in 14 chance of making that NCAA tournament, and a lot of it comes down to how you play when you finally get to Pensacola, in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. But it's Atlanta, Georgia. It's the Sun Belt Conference. Georgia State has a fantastic arena now in the Georgia State Convocation Center, right there on Capitol Ave, up the street from Center Park Credit Union Stadium, and so it'll be a very attractive job. But it again, do you go with an older, more established, proven program builder? Do you go with a P4 assistant coach looking to make the jump up to maybe their first Division I head coaching job? Do you get a Division II guy who's been around for a while and has proven he can build and sustain a program at the Division II level and is finally looking to make the jump up? There's a lot of options for Georgia State there to see who will be the next leader of the Panther basketball program.
And final thing for you, I look at, it's going to be interesting because when you hire a coach, with the players that you've got right now, do they want to stay? Or do you basically have to start a brand new program again with, say, 12, 13 players you got to recruit here quickly? And you have the same scenario down at Georgia Tech, just up the street from Georgia State.
Yeah, the situations are very similar. I've already heard rumors of some of our players from this year's roster, making plans to jump into the transfer portal.
Sure.
When the portal opens. They make that decision now knowing that Jonas Hayes will not be the head coach next year, but not knowing who will be the head coach next year.
Yep.
So, you also get players in the Sun Belt, we'll call it the Sun Belt level, who have had success at the Sun Belt level and who may want to challenge themselves to see if they can play, at an SEC program, at an ACC program, or the
Sure.
Big Ten or the Big 12. It's it's a personal self challenge as well. It's not necessarily just leaving Georgia State because there's something about it that they don't like.
Sure.
It falls under the category of, look, I've proven what I can do at the Sun Belt level.
Yep.
I have the opportunity, or I want to see if I can have the opportunity to take my game to a higher level and see if I can play in the Southeastern Conference or the Atlantic Coast Conference. So some of that is not necessarily that they're leaving Georgia State or any mid-major program because they don't like it. It's more of a personal self-challenge to see if they can take their game and play at a higher level.
All right, bud. Great job as leadoff man this morning on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. Appreciate it very much. We'll talk soon, and we'll talk about March Madness later on. Thanks, Dave. Take care, buddy.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. That is Dave Cohen, the voice of Georgia State Sports. You can follow him on X at GA State Voice. Coming up next, we'll talk with Chuck Graham about March Madness and more on the Saturday Morning Sports Show with that live video stream on YouTube at Team Glory Sports.
Here I am on the road again, ready to pick up the kids from school, go by the grocery store, and do all the things a busy mother does. It's because I just left North Hall Tire and Wheel, where they made sure I was ready to go. They put on a fresh set of tires, checked the brakes, and even the battery. I know I can trust Mike and Matt and the guys at North Hall Tire and Wheel. They have everything you need, all the name brand tires at the best prices, and the service you need. They're on Cleveland Highway in Gainesville, so give them a call at 770-297-5308.
Chick-fil-A is a proud sponsor of Hall County Athletics and the great student athletes that compete on the fields, courts, tracks, and mats. Chick-fil-A was introduced into Hall County way back in 1987 at Lakeshore Mall. Throughout the years, they've been blessed to develop countless relationships with the schools here in Hall County. They're thanking everyone for their support of Chick-fil-A, which allows them to help support our schools, coaches, and student athletes. In Gainesville, you'll find Chick-fil-A on Jesse Jewell Parkway. Eat more chicken.
97.5 Glory FM.
Your radio station for North Georgia sports. Let's talk more basketball this morning. Now we go to the phones and talk with Chuck Graham, our basketball expert. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, how you doing, Mike? How's it going?
I'm blessed, brother. About you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well.
First thing I want to talk about with you is that Chuck was the first person I called last Saturday after I found out about the death of Jason Hughes. I called Chuck and got with him, and he immediately got on the phone, I know, with your band of brothers, and was passing the word out about prayers for the family. Tell everybody what's going on this week.
Yeah, man. I've seen, especially on social media, there's been a outpouring of support for his family, and also for the young people that were involved. I do know there's a lot of prayers, and I saw North Hall Baseball did a tribute, I think, before one of their games that I thought was really...
yeah, we were there Thursday, Chuck.
Yeah, it was really touching, and I know the service is today, but, you know, in the schools, the Hall County schools, and I know Gainesville City schools, we were asked to wear green on Wednesday, wow. And in show of support for our community. And but you know, we're still praying, man. Just a tough situation all the way around, but God hears and answers prayers.
Amen, no doubt about that. And that's why you're the first person I called last Saturday when I heard about this, because I knew your faith and how you could talk with other coaches, and because this has been something that's been life-changing. And I think there's going to be still a lot more lives being changed here in the upcoming days and weeks to come by the death of Coach Hughes and the funeral today. I think you're going to see something mighty take place here in this area, Chuck.
Well, you know, and I look at, you know, and not knowing Coach Hughes personally, but just seeing all of the tributes and all of the comments, I can appreciate the type of guy that he was, and the kind of coach that he was, and the kind of father he was. But what I'm most proud of from him and what I see, that he did have a relationship with Jesus. And
Amen.
You can see how many students that he touched. And not just students, just people in general, I mean, along the way at North Hall. So, really, really just difficult situation. And we're just praying for peace. And, you know, you just never know why certain things like this happen.
Oh,
but I know God is forever faithful.
Amen. No doubt about it. We talk with Chuck Graham, our basketball expert here on 97.5 Glory FM. When we talk about, let's go first of high school sports. You heard our game last Saturday. Your friends at Cross Creek, they beat East Hall, and they were like a Division II basketball team, Chuck. They ended up winning the state championship over a region foe in Harlem back on Wednesday in Macon.
Yeah, what a great game between East Hall and then Cross Creek. I mean, Cross Creek came out, I think, and punched East Hall in the mouth early on. But East Hall showed tremendous fight, and I think that was a testament to East Hall season. If you think about it, that they started out kind of slow and not sure what was going to happen, and then all of a sudden, midway through the year, just like midway through this game, they showed tremendous grit and was able to get back in the game. But the size and athleticism and the length of Cross Creek, I think, was a little too much to deal with. And the same thing against their Region 4 Harlem. They didn't play their best game against Harlem. I think just being familiar with Cross Creek, I think Harlem was able to kind of put up a fight. But at the end of the day, I really and truly believe like the best team in 3A won.
Oh, absolutely. Athletes galore on that team. There's no doubt about that. So you see how high school basketball is now. I know you're excited about today and tomorrow. We'll have the conference championships, the big ones taking place today and tomorrow, and then Selection Sunday taking place tomorrow. Tell me about what you're looking at today and tomorrow.
I mean, today is huge, but, I want to give a shout-out to Raven County boys.
Yes.
For winning the first state championship in basketball in school history.
Yes.
I know Coach Adcock had an opportunity to get to know him a little bit and got a chance to see some of his teams play, especially, this year, watching them on film a couple times. So, big-time victory for them yesterday against the Southwest Macon team, who was essentially playing a home game.
Yep.
With having so many people representing them. But congrats to Coach Adcock and Raven County for winning that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I did not know that he was the head coach of the team. Of course, that's late Mike Adcock's son coaching that team, and Coach Adcock used to be there where you were at West Hall back in the early days of the program there, and for when I first got to know him. And his boys there grew up at West Hall back in the day, and here he is now. They moved to Raven County, and I'm so glad that he was able to win the state championship there.
Yeah, man, some ties to Sparta. So
yes, sir.
I got an opportunity to meet the son, Mike Adcock, this summer at a couple summers ago at an AAU tournament that we were hosting at West Hall, and he came in and saw some of the banners and trophies, and it kind of took him down memory lane of his father being the head coach there.
Yes, sir.
And just awesome family. I know his Coach Adcock's mom.
Yes.
We attend the same church, so I get to talk to her some. And
how's Linda
just
doing?
A beautiful family.
How is Linda?
She's doing great, man. She's doing great. Of course, she's more nervous now than anything, but I know she's surely relieved and joyful that they were able to win this state championship. But we talked all year about their development. This team only lost 2 games all year.
That's something.
And she has a grandson to play, so she's looking at the games now through a different lens, and she's
no way.
But no, she's doing great, man.
His son's playing now. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, his son. Listen, his son's a 9th grader.
Oh my goodness gracious.
He's about 6. He's about 6'4", maybe.
Like Dad.
And he made 127 threes for the entire season. He's a really sharp shooter.
Wow.
He can shoot the basketball. Actually, he won the 3-point contest for the state of Georgia.
Did he?
Yes, he did. He did.
Wow.
Tremendous shooter, and, man, I'm really happy for that family because I know
absolutely.
that Coach Adcock has put the work in. But, yeah, we have some ties to Sparta with that.
Yes, sir. I still remember he was a little bitty thing back in those days there when I was covering the West Hall team there with Mike and Linda kept the book, and he and his sister did the bitty things back in the day. They were at Sparta back that thing. All right, so let's talk about college basketball. Is your team best FSU going to be in the big dance, you think?
No, we won't make the big dance. I think the early season struggles kind of hurt that situation, but I do think over the last couple months, about the last month or so, they've only lost like 2 ball games and won some big time road games and came within 1 point of upsetting Duke the other night in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. I think it'll land them a postseason spot, maybe in the NIT, but both conferences, the ACC and the SEC, intriguing battles. I think that Florida, again, Mike, I tell you, it hurts me to say this, but I'm saying it for every week, that I think Florida, the eye test tells you that they're the best team in the country. But they're facing a tough team in Vanderbilt today in the SEC semifinals. And Georgia, started off strong this year and kind of had some bumps. And I think that, they were upset by an Ole Miss team who's playing out of their mind.
Yes.
But I think this may actually help the Bulldogs in moving forward into because the conference, the SEC being so tough, I think it's prepared them to actually make a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
So how many teams from the SEC and the ACC get in this thing? How many at-large berths do we get?
I mean, I'm looking at the SEC, and I can see 10.
Wow.
I can see 10 teams in. You're looking at the Tennessees and the Arkansas, even those teams that we think that, that kind of like mid-level.
Uh-huh.
Even the Vandy, where I think with that win, that solidified them beating Tennessee. I think you can easily see the SEC getting 10.
Wow.
ACC, it's going to be a little tough. Of course, Duke is the class of the SEC. Well, a big-time game tonight between Duke and Virginia. Virginia was the 2 seed all year and kind of flew under the radar.
Sure.
But I know a lot of people need to pay attention to them as they feel their brackets out, because I think they're a really, really experienced and tough team.
Well,
so I think the ACC may get 6 teams in.
Isn't it something that's one conference on the P4 level, as Dave Cohen calls it, that you have a team that doesn't make the tournament because they have the odd number of teams, with Notre Dame being there with 17 teams, that Georgia Tech could not get in that thing, being the last team in the conference.
Yeah, and conference tournaments, this time of year is so much fun, and you just hate that kids get to miss out on those opportunities. And I do think that, what Dave was saying earlier about Georgia State and about mid-major basketball in general, as you watch the NCAA tournament, you'll start to notice, especially about the second weekend, that the more experienced teams, that those young men probably came from either D2 or mid-major programs,
mm-hmm.
and probably a little bit, they're probably 20, 23, 24 years old, that it actually makes a difference going down the stretch when you have that type of experience in this tournament.
I know it happens in Division II, but do you know of any other conference in Division I that does not let all the teams go into the tournament? I can't name one.
No, it's becoming a thing now,
I think Georgia Tech may be the only team in the country, Dave.
You actually just eliminate a team.
You know what I'm saying? I think Georgia Tech may be the only team in the country not going to the postseason.
Which is really, and to me, having a postseason tournament, a conference tournament, allows everyone an opportunity to make a run, regardless of what happened during the regular season.
Yep.
The regular season means something, but at the same time, if I'm allowed to play my way into the big dance,
mm-hmm.
you totally take that away from teams now by not allowing them to play in a conference tournament and experience that whole atmosphere and have an opportunity to make it to because NC State, a couple years ago, played their way into a Final Four.
Yes, they did. All right, so you're part of the selection committee right now, Chuck, okay? Good look ahead to tomorrow. We know the big news on the mid-major level, as Dave was talking about, there was the Mid-American Conference in Miami, Ohio, undefeated until they were upset by UMass a couple of days ago. What happens to that team?
I know the discussion that they never was discussed about being a number 1 seed or maybe even a number 2 seed, but I do think you have to look at them along the 3, 4, and 5 line.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. If we're going to put an emphasis on the regular season, and I have to play who's in front of me, and people that understand college basketball, regardless of what level, understand how hard it is to win a conference game on the road. And for you to run the table in your conference during the regular season, it's a lot to be said for that. And it's so hard to go undefeated. But I think this team, again, you look at the eye test, they've won in multiple ways. They've won close games, and they've also, blown a lot of teams out. So I do think you have to reward them. Because, again, those kids that's on that team now that still have eligibility left may not be on that roster next year because they may get an opportunity to go play at that P4 level.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, final thing for you. 4 top seeds. You got 4 regionals. Who are your top 4 teams?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, Mike. But I'm definitely going to have to go with and I don't, well, you know what? I'm going to go with Duke as the overall one.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to have to go with Florida.
Okay.
Michigan.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And again, and this could flip either Arizona or either Houston.
Okay. According to that tournament, right?
Yeah, and they play today, so I think that will decide a lot. But I think Duke will be your overall number 1 seed, even with the injuries. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Gators take the overall number 1 because they're healthy and they're playing like at a high level right now.
All right, friend. I appreciate it very much as always. Thanks for being with us, and I appreciate all you're doing for us here with the prayers also for what you helped with the community last week. Also, look forward to talking about it next week, friend, okay?
I appreciate you, man, and everyone. I just want to encourage everyone just to keep praying for our community, man. God is moving in a mighty way.
Amen, brother. Have a great week, friend. We'll talk later, okay?
Thank you.
I bet that's Chuck Graham, the head basketball coach at West Hall High School, and we've got much more for you coming up next. We'll talk football with Harper LaBelle on the Saturday Morning Sports Show.
The landscape of North Georgia continues to change, and when you're looking to buy a home or land, you need someone who knows the real estate market. Turn to Chris McCall Realty. Chris has been serving the Hall and surrounding counties for 27 years. He specializes in residential real estate. Whether it's home, land, acreage, or farms, customer satisfaction is most important to him. Find out more today. Log online to McCallProperties.com.
This is Representative Lee Hawkins, your representative to the state legislature. I want to wish all the local athletes in our area the very best this season. Your team is very important to the success of our community, and I look forward to seeing you play this year and to see what you accomplish in the classrooms and in the community. I also look forward to serving you and your family in the state legislature. This message paid for by the committee to re-elect Lee Hawkins.
97.5 Glory FM.
And back with the Saturday Morning Sports Show. We're going to wrap things up today. Last 15 minutes of the show talking football with our expert Harper LaBelle joining us here by phone. Hey, Harper.
Good morning, Mike. You really want to talk football now, and you got a basketball situation going on in college that even you're getting a little fired up. When are we going to let all these teams in? It's going to be great.
Well, they do when it comes to the conference tournaments, in my mind, from that standpoint. That's another show for us from that standpoint. But it has been
Well, it used to be the Big Ten. The Big Ten would send 14 teams, and everyone else is like, well, how come there's only one team for my conference, and there were 3 of them that are ranked? It just because they travel, and people will go, and you don't want to see an empty gym, especially the first couple of rounds. But it is what it is. It's a business as well as it is a tournament to see who your champion's going to be, and it's not always fair, is it?
No, talk about business though. I thought of you from the first comment I heard on the other big sports station in Atlanta. I'm going like, they don't know what they're talking about. Harper LaBelle knows exactly what's going on. There are a lot of moves that were made this week by the Atlanta Falcons. Is just one of the examples. There are a lot of teams doing the same thing. A lot of it had to do with money, didn't it, with all the moves being made this week?
Yeah, the Falcons went into free agency. They had about $17 million of cap room. They moved some things around. They seem to do it every year where they'll take a couple of guys. And I'm going to just use Jake Matthews as the example. Highest paid guy. You're not going to underpay this man. But if you change his contract from a $20 million salary to an $18 million salary and a $2 million signing bonus, it's still the same money. But if you change
the way that he is paid, then you can free up cap room space. And instead of having $17 million, that $2 million becomes now a signing bonus, and that is not considered under the same thing. Now you have $19 million in cap space. And they've been doing this with Jake for years. And I'm not saying this to be derogatory towards the team or Jake, but if they ever need to free up some money, give it to him. You know he's going to make the team, and you get a couple $1 million, and you can sign somebody. And that's what the Falcons have done. You get Tua, you bring in a new quarterback. We're leading the league right now in left-handed quarterbacks. Mike.
Yes, we are, aren't we?
Do you remember Corey Levin signed? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you remember a team with two left-handed quarterbacks?
I don't think so. No. And if we sign an unrestricted free agent and have three, then we'll probably be the only one ever to have a left-handed staff, if you will, at that position. But remember, it was interesting years ago when Joe Montana was getting a little bit older, and if he got hurt and his understudy, Steve Young, comes in, the first thing would happen, Steve would throw a pass, and someone would drop it.
Yep.
It wouldn't be Jerry Rice, but someone would drop. Oh, it's the spin, the rotation of the ball coming at a different angle, and that really confuses the players. It does, but at that level, you get used to it real quick. So you just learn how to catch the ball with softer hands than what you did, and you'll be just fine.
So that was the one move. You'll go talk about that first. Are you a fan of Tua coming to the Falcons?
I'm not a fan of Tua's injuries. So
Correct.
If you're going to replace a immobile quarterback with another immobile quarterback, and we've had problems with that. One of the things that Kirk Cousins did very well is when you bring pressure, he got the ball out. He was leading the league. I remember Dave Archer saying during one of his completion percentage is as high as anybody in the National Football League when you bring a blitzer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. I love to have that. Now, he doesn't move around very well, but he can get the ball out, and that was good. Tua's had the injury problems and all that kind of stuff. You're just replacing an injured quarterback with another one that might be injured. I'm okay. If the price is right, and I know that Miami is going to eat the great majority of his salary,
mm-hmm.
I wish him well. I hope that it produces great things for the Falcons.
Absolutely.
You bring in Corey Levin, an offensive lineman. You signed Chris Williams yesterday and Channing Tindall, a third-rounder from Miami, a Georgia kid at linebacker. So you had a busy day yesterday, the Falcons did.
All right, you know these guys. I do not. So what were some of the good signings, for example, the Falcons made those weeks? They made a bunch of them this week.
Yeah, you brought in a couple of – so we got a kicker and a punter. Austin Hooper is your tight end that was here before.
Yep.
Christian Harris was a third-rounder from Houston. Cameron Thomas was a third-rounder from Arizona. You re-signed LaCale London. He had 5 sacks last year for you. So there's a couple things that they did on Thursday. But the kicking game's going to be different. Nick Folk, if you don't mind me saying so, out of Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California.
Super.
I know a little bit about that place. 41 years old, though. Okay? So we signed a guy that kicking indoors and with a couple of other indoor games that you'll be playing, especially in New Orleans, his percentage should be high enough to keep you. New punter in Jake Bailey. He was an all-pro in 2020 a few years ago, so he can kick well. Hopefully you solve at least portions of that problem. If you don't mind, Mike, real quick, I just want to say we lose Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, Kadero Hodge, Caden Ellis, Arnold Ebiketie, Tyler Algier, as just a couple of your starters that signed as free agents with other clubs. And of that, I think Caden Ellis is the one that I'm going to miss the most. He had a great tenure while he was here with the Falcons, did everything you would ask of him, and oddly enough, he re-signs with the Saints, which is where he came from. So I wish him well. I thank him for playing hard as an Atlanta Falcon, but boy, there's 2 times a year where I'm not going to be rooting for him.
Well, that was the thing I heard about the X-Post, was it, or just the release that the Falcons sent out, and they were just, thanking him for all that he had done, wished him well, except for the 2 times that the Falcons played them. Then they had the other one, Kirk Cousins, that said, well, we have released Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of appreciation you can tell from the folks that put those little blurbs out there. At least not, not the same love, if you will, to him. But that's just the way the league works. you get at the end of your contract, and if the club doesn't re-sign you during the season, you have a chance to take your talents to South Beach like LeBron James did. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, there's a few Falcons that have done really well over the years that we're going to lose.
Well, there was one aspect of all this week with free agency is money. The other is it just getting ready maybe for the draft and who you're going to have on your team and who you need in the future.
A little bit different in the way that other leagues do it, but the free agency can really help solidify your lineup before the draft rather than after.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty good idea because if you need 4 or 5 guys at certain positions, at linebacker, of course, or let's say defensive backs, there's always a need there, or an offensive lineman or 2 that you can sign and kind of shore things up a little bit. It sure helps to change the draft need situation because you may not be able to get the guy that you want. He may go 2 picks beforehand. Let's say you want to get offensive lineman, and the one you want is gone. So you've just already signed some free agents. That depth changes. You're still going to get a lineman, but you may not get them in your first or second round. You may get 2 of them in the 4th and 5th round, and that'll change the dynamic of the team. So it's just a different way that the NFL does it. Some people like it. Some people say it's not as good, but it is a free agency first, then a draft pick later, and then you can get the guy that you want in the draft after signing a couple of free agents that have already proven themselves.
I even heard this morning on the way into work this morning, Harper, a nationally syndicated show talking about even teams looking ahead to the 27 draft and saying, okay, we're not going to have a very good team this year. Let's go ahead and tank and see what we can get, what we need for 27. That just amazes me.
Yeah, it sounds like a basketball situation.
Yes,
it's
it does.
what a lot of teams do in that analogy. Maybe at a certain spot, Mike. Maybe this year isn't the quarterback a year. Last year there were a lot of quarterbacks that came out. 2 years ago there were 4 or 5 first rounders, and if there's not that depth at a certain position, I don't think you tank for that unless there's a guy like if you want Arch Manning next year and you want to tank for him. That might be a situation that you throw out from a media perspective, but I don't see a head coach really being able to keep his job if that's the way that he does. I don't want to win this year.
Exactly.
Come on, Mike. You know better than that. Nobody can say that.
Exactly.
You're going to lose the job. So
yes,
I know what they're saying, but I also that especially early morning 4-letter network conversations. If I'm not getting yelled at, which it seems like I always am for being a listener, then sometimes they say stuff that really doesn't measure up.
Well, and okay, you're a coach. You're trying to keep a job. Players trying to keep jobs. I can't see anybody tanking. Yeah, you may not have the best talent in the world, but you can blame your GM, your owner, that kind of thing, as in the Jets, for example, or the Raiders, that kind of thing. But you got other guys who are the competitors.
Got to win. Keep your job.
Yeah.
Got to win.
So,
and if you don't, you know what the opposite end of that is, and it's usually a handshake and an apple and a roadmap. Somebody saying thanks, but no thanks. You're moving on. So
a roadmap. I love
and
a roadmap.
What teams is he good? The Raiders are going to tank again this year. Come on, it's I don't know.
You got people put people in the seats, and who's going to go see a team that's going to tank? I can't see that either. Can you?
No. You've got a situation here in Atlanta where you've got any Sunday out there. You look at the opening kickoff at the audience. They don't even show the crowd very much anymore. Because there's not as many people there. But in Green Bay, in Kansas City, you go to some other organization. You go to Pittsburgh, and it's sold out. And they love their team and they support it well. It'd be interesting to see how Carolina's attendance changes with their surprise last year. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Panther fans react to a team that made it to the playoffs, or at least they're right there. So interesting how this is going to turn around.
All right, here's your 2-minute warning, Harper. Okay, last 2 minutes. Tell me about your your best free agent signing this week.
Well, for Atlanta, thank you for bringing two up. We needed depth. Mike, we were in this position a couple years ago.
Yes.
We didn't have a quarterback in the room that anybody was happy about. Now you've got an injured quarterback when you don't know when Michael Penix is going to be there, but you bring in a veteran. He led the league in passing a couple years ago with 4,600 yards, whatever it was. He's going to be vying for a job. That to me was paramount. You got to bring in a guy, and it worked out financially. Good for the team for that. I still don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going to be. Do we have to deal with the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers signing one more year? I really don't know if I want to do
Let's
that.
hope not.
Mike. I've lost my patience.
Yeah, let's hope not. That's where the league is going, though, it seems like that. And so a big question also, we'll talk about another time, is James Pierce, what he's going
on the depth chart, Mike. That's the thing about it right now. The Falcons and the National Football League can't do anything regarding him until the law gets this thing taken care of. And I don't know how you speed that up any faster, but he has 3 felony charges against him for that altercation that he was in a little more than a month ago. Bad news for that young man. I wish him well, but even if he comes through squeaky clean, Mike, I know he's going to be facing some sort of a fine from the league, and then the Falcons will have to abide by whether there's a suspension. So there's a position that's wide open again. The Falcons get a guy that really plays well, and now he's not going to be a part of the roster, at least not right now.
I know. Finally, let's wrap things up again. Funeral takes place this morning, 11 a.m. I know even you can relate and imagine what people are going through here in this local area with the coach that was killed last Friday night.
Horrible, Mike. It's horrible. That shouldn't be a part of what we're talking about. You know what I mean? But it is.
And prayers for the entire community.
Yeah.
97.5 Glory FM is WGTJ Murrayville, Gainesville, and W248DL Murrayville, Gainesville.
With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump says the U.S. destroyed military sites on an island vital to Iran's oil network. He also warned the island's oil infrastructure could be next if Iran continues to interfere with passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz. There's no information about the suspect in the attack on a Michigan synagogue this week.
Officials say Ayman Mohammed Ghazali lost 4 family members in an Israeli airstrike in Lebanon last week. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer spoke of the need to tone down the rhetoric.
People like the person that attacked this community yesterday get fomented by rhetoric.